Assalamu alaikum. This is Samir Ali from Edify Elite, a project of Edify Group of Companies. So, in our series of videos in which we talk about admissions in the US and admissions worldwide generally, we're going to talk about different types of essays that universities do require. So, let's start this video. If you haven't subscribed to the page, please subscribe, and do also tell your friends about the page and help them subscribe to the page. So let's begin with the video. So when we talk about US specifically and undergraduate admissions in the US, we need to know about the admissions criteria. So as I said in my last video, there are 4 things that a university takes into account when they basically look at your admission. So the first thing is your academic excellence. The second is your SAT score or your English proficiency test scores. The third thing is your profile and your extracurriculars, and the fourth thing is your essays. So in this video, we're going to talk about the essays specifically. The essay parts of your application are very important in the sense that they hold equal weightage to all the other criterias. When we specifically talk about essays, students often do not spend much time on their essays, or they do not give them enough importance, or they do not know about their importance, and that is maybe one of the reasons why students do not make them a vital part of their applications. When we apply to a US university, there are about 250,000 students that apply, 250,000 plus students that apply to universities in the US every year. And we can understand from this then that when an admission officer is faced with such a variety and such a big pile of admission applications, it is very difficult to give them enough time, give all of or each individual application enough time. So an admission officer roughly looks at your application for 15 to 20 minutes. So you really need to make an impact, or you really need to impress those admission officers in those 15 to 20 minutes. That is why your essays basically show them what kind of person you are, what is your narrative, what is your personality, and what is your characteristics. So there is no other way for an admission officer to know about you, and those essays or those statement of purpose is the only way in that an admission officer can really find out who you really are. And as it stands, you need to impress that admission officer in those 20 minutes. So the essays are a very important part of your application overall. So when we talk about essays, there are 2 types of essays that every university requires. The first is your SOPs, statement of purpose, which you need to write to a university. This can be written once, and these can go to each and every university. Some universities also do require an academic SOP in which you have to relate your academic rigor to your application and why you basically chose that degree or chose that specific program. So when we talk about an SOP, there are 3 things that I need, or I advise my students, is that your essay should have an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion. So your introduction needs to be very, very interesting, or it needs to pique the interest of the admission officer. So you can start with a personal story, you can start with something about yourself, some experience that you have faced in the past that shaped your future. Your future can then come into your main body, leading towards your academic rigor or leading towards your personality, your narrative, and then ending with the conclusion. We'll talk in detail about the SOPs later on, but the thing I want to focus most on right now is your supplemental essays. So supplemental essays are something that each and every university in the US requires. The number of supplemental essays depends on which university you are applying to, and every university has different essay prompts which they will give to you before your application is handed in, and you basically need to write your essays on those essay prompts. Just as a starting point, I will introduce you, or I will tell you, to some kinds of essay prompts which universities do usually use. So the most basic kind of essay prompt, or the most basic kind of essay prompt that you will face is, firstly, why us? This can be posed in a different kind of question. Why did you choose this university, or why specifically this institute? Or they can pinpoint towards a specific program. Let's say, for example, you're going in an IT program, or you're going into data analytics. So they might ask you why you chose the data analytics part of this university specifically. So this is the most basic and most common type of essay that you might come across. But then I also have open with me some essay prompts which different universities use, and they can range from very, I can say, simple topics to very difficult topics which might not make sense, but you have to write them in a way that they are so meticulous that they pique the interest of any admission officer. So I have open with me some essay prompts which were uh, given to the students in 2023 and 2024. So let's start with the first one. Let's say Princeton University has an essay prompt. Ask the student, please describe why you are interested in studying engineering at Princeton, including any of your experiences in or exposure to engineering, how you think the programs offered at the university suit your particular interests. 250 words. If we move forward, I started with a simple one. If we move forward, we can see for Stanford University, there is, please describe what aspects of your life experience, interest, and character would help you make a distinctive contribution as an undergraduate to Stanford University. Now, you can see the level of difficulty is slowly rising, and the university is trying to find out why and they should give you an admission, and how you would change the dynamic of their student body or their university if they give you an admission. So in those 250,000 plus students that apply every year to different universities, what makes you stand out? What makes the difference? Why should this university give you an admission? You have to basically explain through your words. You have to show your distinctiveness. You have to show your uniqueness, that the admission officer would be impressed by your essay. If we move a little further, we can say that Yale University. What is it about Yale that has led you to apply? Again, this is very simple. If we look at some other essay prompts from Yale University which are more difficult, we can see that there's a question that Yale often invites dignitaries or hosts different scholars at a dinner, and if you're invited to that dinner, what will you talk about? Or if you're invited to speak at that dinner, what experience or what thing would you talk about? Another one is, students usually live in suites of 4 to 6 in the student dorms. If you are admitted to the university, how can you help your fellows who are living with you, who are your roommates, and how you can change the dynamic in a better way, in a positive way, for yourself and for your fellows. So these different kinds of essays do come up. There can be different essays, such as an essay which is, let's say, a one-liner or a one-word essay, and it does not really relate to you in any way or relate to your university in any way, but the university just wants to know your ingenuity and your innovation skill. For example, an essay can come up like for example, and my unpopular decision, that the university wants you to write about a decision which you took that was unpopular for you. For example, a university might ask you to write a very short essay on a different kind of love. So these kind of essays do not tell you that you need to specifically write about this topic or that topic, but they basically want to know how innovative you are. So if we take into account this essay, a different kind of love, most people would fantasize or romanticize this essay and tell about their failed love story or something about a bad breakup that they had, but the university does not want to know about that. University wants to know how you can mold this essay that it would impress an admission officer. So you, in a different kind of love, you can write about some academic rigor or some passion that you have that you basically love, or you can write about something on the lines of you loving a textbook, you loving a specific set of sneakers that you wear every day to school. So you love them, and though they basically give you confidence and give you the courage to get up and go to the go to your high school every day. So you can mold your essays in any way that you want, but again the point is they need to be written very meticulously. What the university admission officers are basically looking at are, they're looking at your intellect, your creativity, your leadership, and your passion. So you can mold these essays in any way that you like. What I like to advise my students is that they can start in different ways. They can start with a conflict such as something that is very intriguing. A conflict is always intriguing. So it can be you versus yourself, that you had a habit that you wanted to overcome, and basically you went through an experience that you can relate to the topic, and then you versus you will lead to you basically either losing from yourself or defeating that bad habit that you wanted to end. It can be you versus a cultural norm, you versus environmental practices, you versus the society. It can be anything. It can be you versus your parents in a specific setting where you thought that you were correct rather than your parents, but you ended up realizing that your ego got in the way and your parents were correct the whole time around. So these essays can be shaped or worded in any way you like, but they need to tell a story. They need to tell something about your personality. They need to tell something about your narrative that led you down this path in applying to that particular university. You can pose a question in the start of your essay. You can pose a question such as, what got me here? Or you can pose a question, for example, why us? Or you can pose a question that that can basically relate to you in a way. You could say that, how can I change my life? So you can pose a question. A question is always intriguing. A question generally draws curiosity in the reader, that how has this person answered that very question. Again, for another starting, you can take, for example, a famous quote from any of your favorite writers. You can write down that quote and then change or mold the essay wording into such a way that it relates to that very quote from your favorite writer, or how that quote motivated you, or how when you read that quote it led you down this path. So in conclusion, I am basically trying to tell you that your essays do matter. Your admission officer only takes a very brief look at your essays and your profile. He has very short time to do that, 15 to 20 minutes, and you need to engage him long enough that he basically knows about your intellect, your narrative, your personality, your characteristics. If you take a look at the screen, I have taken out few samples. The first sample is basically essay that is very general, that does not basically tell about the narrative of the student. It does not tell about anything, why specifically you chose this university, or it does not tell anything about the personality. It is quite literally written on the very topic. If we compare this to the essay, a good essay, which you can see on your screen, you can see how the student has engaged with the topic, how the student has changed the wording of the topic to his own benefit in order to satisfy his narrative, in order to explain, in order to define a trait of his personality. The student has written in very clear grammar. He has not used many fancy words, but he has kept everything simple and has explained his ideology, or has meticulously written down this essay, which could possibly pique the interest of any admission officer. So if you need any advice regarding your essays, how you can write those essays, what essays have gotten previous students into leading top tier universities or Ivy League universities, if you need to understand how to write a hook for an essay, you can contact us at Edify Elite and we will be happy to help you. Thank you for your time.